Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 92nd Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and predictions for the Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda fight. This is going to be for Shakur Stevenson's WBC Lightweight World Championship. I'm really looking forward to this one. As you can see, both fighters are undefeated, a combined 56 wins between them with no losses, and a combined total of 38 knockouts between them. So obviously somebody's O is going to have to go, and that's always very, very exciting. This is, as I said before, this is for Stevenson's WBC Lightweight World Championship. Really looking forward to this one. Obviously, someone's O has got to go. Not only that, but this is a very interesting fight because it's a rare instance where we've got a southpaw versus a southpaw. Obviously, that doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, you either get orthodox versus orthodox or southpaw versus orthodox, but this is one of those rare instances where we get a southpaw fighting another southpaw, which I feel like those fights are always very interesting. In my opinion, those fights always make for a very intriguing viewing, just because obviously southpaws aren't used to fighting southpaws. They don't fight them often, so it's really, it's always a special treat when we get to see two southpaws fighting each other, and here we've got some of the best southpaws in the lightweight division. So yeah, massive fight. Really looking forward to this one. A great fight for the lightweight division, and I think it's going to be very exciting. Not only that, but of course there's two very different styles here. We know that styles make fights, and undoubtedly there's two very different styles here. Obviously Zepeda with the massive output, the relentless pressure, the massive output, throwing tons of punches around, and then you got Stevenson, who's obviously a bit more calculated, likes to focus more on the counter punching and is obviously a lot more methodical. So two very different styles, southpaw versus southpaw. Really exciting fight. So yeah, pretty much I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys my predictions for it, who I think will be walking out on Saturday with the WBC Lightweight World Championship. So in terms of their records, so Shakur Stevenson has a 23-0 record with 11 knockouts. So as you can see, definitely not as experienced in the ring as Zepeda, who has been in there 33 times. However, obviously, as we know, Stevenson does have some really good names on his record and has generally fought at quite a high level for a long time now. So even though he may only have 23 fights, he certainly shared the ring with some very good fighters who have, really helped to develop his skills. Not only that, but Stevenson has always been exposed to really good sparring as well. Stevenson's always had really good quality sparring, and I think that's something else that's really helped him out as well. But yeah, so 23 wins with 11 knockouts. So not the absolute heaviest hands in the division. Obviously Stevenson did get a knockout in his previous fight, but not necessarily the heaviest hands in the division, but certainly has decent power. 11 knockouts from 23 wins. However, Zepeda undoubtedly has the power advantage, as he's got a 33-0 record with 27 knockouts. So obviously Zepeda undoubtedly, without question, has the power advantage in this fight, and that's something that Stevenson's gonna have to watch out for. So those are the two records, undefeated for both of them. So someone's O has got to go, and as you can see, a total of 56 wins between them, and a total of 38 knockouts between them. So loads of wins here, loads of experience, loads of power, and I just think it's going to make for a great fight. So in terms of my prediction, I have gone with Shakur Stevenson to win by points. That's what I personally think is going to happen. I think Shakur Stevenson will be able to retain his WBC Lightweight World Championship in this fight. Obviously not an easy fight for him by any means. I want to make that clear. Obviously Zepeda experienced, definitely grizzled, has definitely been there and done it. Of course, as I've mentioned before, we know Mexican fighters, they always, they never give up. They always show tremendous heart, and Zepeda certainly has that dog in him. He's always had the dog in him where he's able to, get through a fight, get through those like nitty gritty situations where like he's really struggling, really under pressure. We know, of course, the Mexican boxing style, never give in, never give up, always give it your all. We know that that's, something that Mexican boxing has always had, and Zepeda certainly has had that instilled into him as well. So this is going to be a really exciting fight and definitely a challenging one for Stevenson. However, I do think that Stevenson will get the victory by points. So let's go over a couple of reasons why. So firstly, I think Stevenson's counter-punching. Stevenson is some of the best counter-punching in the lightweight division. I think he's so good at reading opponents' rhythms, reading their timing, and ultimately just, kind of making those adjustments, downloading all the data, and implementing the counter-punching and the timing. And I think this is going to be crucial for Stevenson because, as I mentioned before, Zepeda has absolutely elite output. He's got some of the best output in the lightweight division. He averages easily between 80 to 100 punches a round, which is just absolutely phenomenal. He's got a great gas tech as well. We know that Zepeda has always had fantastic stamina, great cardio, and that's something that really serves him in fights because Zepeda has such an elite output, always throwing, between 80 to 100 punches around. And don't get me wrong, that is something that I think Stevenson will definitely struggle with to begin with. Absolutely. I think Stevenson is someone who really likes to get into a rhythm, get into a groove, and kind of work his way into a fight. But I think Zepeda is going to have picked up on this and is going to come out 100 miles an hour and just be putting on tons and tons of pressure and trying to throw Stevenson off his game. We've seen in the past that Stevenson, when he's been pressured, has at some point struggled and even buckled a little bit, so it's something that he does tend to struggle with. However, I do think as the fight goes on, he'll be able to, slow the pace down. I think he'll be able to tire Zepeda out. Eventually, he'll be able to start slowing him down and eventually, start outboxing him, but I definitely think initially he's going to struggle a lot with Zepeda's output. Zepeda has fantastic stamina, great output, and I think that's something that Stevenson is really going to struggle with. Obviously, the excess pressure is going to, make him a bit sloppy, make him, maybe make him make some mistakes initially, kind of in the early stages of the fight, and I could definitely see that happening. Obviously, when a fighter who likes to be a bit more calculated and a bit, has a high, not necessarily the highest punch output, but a very high landing accuracy, which we know that Shakur Stevenson has always had a very high land accuracy. He always lands a lot of his punches. Genuinely, he does land a lot of his punches. He's got fantastic accuracy, but as a result of that, doesn't throw as much. And I do think fighters like that tend to struggle with relentless pressure. And I think initially Zepeda's 80 to 100 punches around and just the insane output is really going to make Stevenson struggle to begin with. However, I do think that Stevenson will eventually settle into the fight, will eventually weather the storm, and then start to get the timing, the combinations, the counter punches, and eventually start to slow Zepeda down. But I do think initially Zepeda will probably be on top in the first half of this fight because he's going to be putting on loads of pressure. He's going to be throwing loads of punches. He's going to be trying to really impose himself and back Stevenson up. And I do think Stevenson's initially going to be thrown off his rhythm from this and is going to struggle. But I think as the fight goes on, he'll start to get the shots going. He'll start to pick Zepeda apart and eventually outbox into a hard fought but ultimately comfortable decision at the end. I think that's the best way to describe it. I think for him this will be a hard fought but comfortable decision. So, definitely may give up the first few rounds, but I do think as the mid stages of the fight come in and maybe Zepeda starts getting a bit more tired, I think that's when Stevenson will turn the tide and start to outbox him, pick him apart on the feet and ultimately get, the unanimous decision or whatever decision it may be. I'm going to go with unanimous, but it could be anything. So yeah, that's the first reason. I think the relentless output from Zepeda, while will be beneficial early, I do think that Stevenson will be able to make the adjustments, get the counter punches going, and eventually turn this fight into his favor and outbox Zepeda. So I think that's the first thing. Secondly, Stevenson has really good head movement and footwork. That's something that he's always been really, really good at. Fantastic movement around the ring. We know he's so good at that, and that's something he's always managed to make his opponent struggle with. We know that Stevenson has some of the best stats in terms of punches defended. He gets hit with, on average, some of the least punches in a round in the lightweight division, and that isn't a surprise because he's got really good head movement and really good footwork. And to be fair, we've seen Zepeda in the past, he has found it a bit difficult with opponents who have particularly good feet and particularly good head movement. He has sometimes struggled to get anything going. He struggled to land punches. He struggled, struggled to get his combinations going. And I think actually something that Zepeda tends to struggle with a bit is opponents which are really fast and flashy and have really good movement, head movement, footwork, etc. And I would definitely say that Shakur Stevenson has both of those things. So I think that's something else that's going to serve him well in this fight. And again, I think it's going to be very, very needed. I think there are going to be points in this fight where, in my opinion, he's really going to have to be on the back foot and he's really going to have to be, trying to stay away from Zepeda because, as mentioned before, Zepeda throws between 80 to 100 punches around. He's extremely active, and in my opinion, he'll be trying to walk Stevenson down and, try and gain his respect. And in my opinion, there'll be no benefit for Stevenson to try and throw back and try and get into, sloppy brawling matches for no reason. In my opinion, Stevenson's going to want to be more kind of boxing in this fight, being smart, being tactical, being calculated. So for that reason, I think that Stevenson will be able to use his head movement, his footwork to kind of keep away from Zepeda at points and come back with his own punches after he's managed to get a bit of a breather. But I think that's something else that's really going to serve Stevenson in this fight is his really good head movement, his really good footwork, and just in general his lateral movement. Basically his ability to, be around the ring, move, and he's really fast. We know that Stevenson's a very fast fighter, and that's something that's really going to help him. And to be fair, that's another thing, hand speed. Now, don't get me wrong, Zepeda also has pretty good hand speed, but to be fair, Stevenson has very quick hands, and I think that's something that, again, is really going to help him out, especially when trying to throw back from the pressure of Zepeda. Of course, Zepeda's pressure will be unrelenting, but in my opinion, Stevenson will be able to use his fast hands to kind of retaliate back and really, really start landing the punches himself, and I think the hand speed is going to be really, really important for Stevenson in this fight, among the other things, but I think hand speed as well, so I think that's another reason why Stevenson will be able to get the job done. And ultimately, I just think from a technical perspective, I just think Stevenson is a bit of a better boxer. Don't get me wrong, Zepeda certainly got good fundamentals as well. Absolutely, he's a pro boxer. He's 33-0. He certainly knows how to box, but I definitely think that Zepeda kind of prefers, he's a good boxer, but I think he does tend to prefer the more like brawling aspect, on the inside, which he's very good at. He's absolutely fantastic. When you talk about like inside fighting and brawling and all of that, I think that Zepeda is absolutely fantastic and one of the best in the division. However, Stevenson, I think, will be able to kind of prevent the fight from becoming that that, because Stevenson has never been particularly good when a fight goes into a brawl. He tends to struggle a bit. He hasn't necessarily got the best, he's not a bad inside fighter, but I think that Zepeda is definitely a better inside fighter. So while I think that Zepeda will make use of his inside fighting, his brawling, his fast hands, his pressure, etc., to make this a challenging fight for Stevenson, I think that eventually, after some early struggles, I think Stevenson will be able to turn this one around, use his fast hands, use his combinations, use his counter punching, his movement, his head movement, etc., and turn this fight around and eventually get a hard fought but comfortable decision. So that's kind of my overall prediction. I think Stevenson takes this one by decision. Really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say about this one. It's a massive fight and a really, really exciting one for the lightweight division. Definitely really looking forward to seeing these two fight, and it's great to see the WBC world title being defended again. So yeah, going to be a brilliant fight. Obviously, best of luck to both of them. I think it's going to be a really exciting fight. As I said before, we've got a clash of styles. We've got southpaw versus southpaw. We've got two very, very good, among the best fighters in the lightweight division. So really, what's not to love? So brilliant fight. Really, really, really looking forward to it. So those are some of the key reasons why I think that Stevenson will win. But I want to be clear, I also think Zepeda is going to make this tough. As I said before, Zepeda has a lot of strengths himself. He's really good. He's really physical. He's got fantastic combinations. He really, really knows how to put punches together. His output is unlike anyone else in the lightweight division. 80 to 100 punches around, very, very relentless, always on you, etc. And of course, he's got fantastic stamina. So those are the key things that he'll be able to use. Meanwhile, Stevenson, a bit more methodical. We know he likes to take his time a bit more, use his counter punching. So for that reason, it's going to be a very interesting clash of styles. But anyway, that's kind of all I really have to say. I don't think there's much more I can really say about this one. All in all, a very exciting fight. I'm really looking forward to it. So please let me know down below who you think is going to win out of Shakur Stevenson or William Zepeda. Who do you think will be walking out of this fight with the WBC Lightweight World Championship? And yeah, pretty much that's all I've got to say. So as a summary, Stevenson 23-0 with 11 knockouts, Zepeda 33-0 with 27 knockouts, and I believe that Stevenson will get the victory by points and will officially hand Zepeda his first loss. But of course, I could be wrong. It's a close fight. Definitely, my opinion though is that Stevenson gets it by decision. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great day. I really, really appreciate all the support recently. Thank you, as always, for all the support you guys have been giving me. I've really been enjoying posting podcasts recently, and of course, we're getting close now to Arsenal's preseason starting. Obviously, next week, we've got the absolutely massive Usyk versus Dubois fight, which I'm really looking forward to. So, loads more stuff to come on the channel. Also, look out on the channel tomorrow, because I will be uploading a podcast about Eberechi Eze. Obviously, Eberechi Eze has been very high up in Arsenal's plans, and it's really looking like Arsenal are pushing for the deal, and hopefully, it will get done. So, I'm going to make a video talking about what I personally would think of that signing. So, do look forward to that and upload tomorrow as well. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys on another podcast soon. Bye bye.